Tatsuya was an ugly, poor, neglected child who was bullied by his mother at a young age for being a defective magician, and she tried countless times to eliminate him before he was born. His abuse continued getting deadlier every day, but on his 4th birthday, his mother forced him to undergo an illegal forbidden surgery and unleashed her broken mind-altering ability to fry his brain. However, the procedure failed, but she deleted all of his emotions and desires, and no matter how much he cried or screamed for help, they kept testing him like he was a worthless rat and used him as nothing but his sister's bodyguard. Since that day, however, Tatsuya secretly developed the greatest destructive magic known to mankind and gained the ability to revive others from the dead, but kept hiding it from his family. Even on planes, his mother and sister would ride in first class and eat the best food, while he had to sit alone among strangers and starve all day. When Miyuki saw him waiting with her bags, she was disgusted by the fact that he was blood related to her, but her mother told her to not be bothered by it, because he's nothing more than their servant. Even looking in her direction would make her want to vomit, and she wished for him to die one day. When they got to their villa, their maid Hanami welcomed them inside, but after seeing the nice weather, Miyuki asked her mother to take a walk outside. However, her mother said to bring their servant along, but Miyuki was revolted by the idea of being close to him. As she enjoyed the sun, all she could think about was how worthless that person is, and couldn't even bring herself to call him her brother. After all, he has no magical powers. But as she kept walking, Tatsuya tried pulling her away before bumping into someone, but the big black man intentionally shoved her back anyway. The 3 oppressive soldiers threatened to harm her, but Tatsuya stepped in to protect his sister and told them to get their ugly asses out of his face. However, after hearing his disrespect, the man launched a magical infused strike towards him, but Tatsuya blocks it with ease, shocking Miyuki. As the man got in a fighting stance, Tatsuya told him that he's risking his life, but after the soldier feinted his first shots, Tatsuya evaded his strike and punched him in the stomach, forcing him to his knees. Both of the soldiers' lackeys were shocked, but Tatsuya took his sister's hand and left. As they kept walking, she never imagined her brother would be this powerful, and for the first time, she felt a different kind of emotion towards him. Inside the mansion, Miyuki told Hanami that her brother protected her, but Tatsuya said he was only obeying his orders, shocking Hanami. However, his mother was glad that he knew his worthless place, and after he left, Miyuki began crying, wondering why he had to be her servant. When she was done showering, Hanami told her that her mother was feeling ill because of her deadly disease, so she would have to take her place at the royal party to represent their family. Along with her, she would be taking Tatsuya, and after leaving inside the limo, Hanami couldn't help but feel heartbroken, because while she was just an AI robot, Tatsuya was a real human, so she wished for those 2 siblings to be close one day. When they arrived at the party, her uncle greeted her and went on to introduce her to the rest of the family, while completely ignoring Tatsuya's existence. Her 2 cousins, Ayako and Fumiya, were excited to see her, but wondered if Tatsuya had come with her. As soon as they saw him, they ran to talk with him, but as Miyuki watched them from afar, their father thought they were disrespectful for ignoring the actual heir to the Yotsuba family. However, she noticed her brother smiling for the first time in his life, and felt jealous that he'd never smiled at her like that. But the entire Yotsuba family, the strongest mage clan in Japan, viewed him as nothing more than an instrument, so she knew that she had to treat him the same way, as a worthless peasant, and to never harbor any love for him. But in that moment, she saw him smile once more, and she felt a pain in her heart. A few weeks later, while Hanami was taking photos, she noticed the sad gaze on Tatsuya's face, and asked Miyuki to take a photo with her brother. However, Tatsuya needed permission from his mother, so after she agreed, they both sat down to take a photo together. But rather than remaining gloomy for the photo, Miyuki smiled in the last second. Just then, however, their boat began speeding away, and the captain alerted them that a submarine was stalking them. As the vessel launched missiles towards them, Tatsuya slowed the flow of time, and raised his hand to activate his abilities and neutralize the missiles, breaking them into pieces. His sister wondered how he was able to use magic without a CAD device, and wondered who he really was, because she never knew anything about her own brother. Later that night, the ugly, disgusting commander of the Navy, who had no budget spent on his anime eyes, began investigating why the torpedoes were fired at them. However, none of them knew the reason, and Mia told him to stop wasting their time. Outside of the house, the big black man saw Tatsuya once again, and when the leader recognized that he was the one who knocked him down, he forced his subordinate to apologize for his disrespect. Tatsuya accepted his apology, and the soldiers walked away. But before the leader left, he invited Tatsuya to come to the base and spar with them, and left to drive away. The following day, Mia had her weapons of mass distraction exposed, and Hanami told her that she was invited to a dance. Because of that, she called on Tatsuya to stand, and told him that he should take the captain's offer to train while she's not home. However, Miyuki wanted to be able to go with her brother and claimed that she just wanted to assess his combat skills in case they were in danger. Seeing her point, their mother agreed, but commanded Tatsuya to call his sister by her name in public rather than her highness, to avoid the rest from finding out about their treatment of him. After walking for hours in the rain, the two of them arrived to the naval base, and all the soldiers were training together. Eventually, the soldiers began sparring against one another without using magic, and the captain asked him if he wanted to give it a try. Looking at his sister, Tatsuya accepted the offer, so the commander assigned Shiba to battle against him, saying that Shiba was the national boxing champion in college. As they took their stances, Shiba told him to take it easy, but as soon as the match started, Shiba rushed forward and attempted to land his strikes. But Tatsuya landed a single blow to his chest, knocking him down to his knees. The commander called Haruto to battle against Tatsuya, telling him to go all out. In their stance, Haruto launched up to kick Tatsuya down, but he managed to evade every single one of his kicks with ease. However, one of the soldiers was even more shocked to see how Tatsuya was fighting as if he's experienced deadly combat. Because with each evasion, he opened the distance to prevent his opponent from using a concealed weapon. After evading the rest of his attacks, Tatsuya attempted to strike back, but both of his hits were blocked. And when Haruto attempted to finish the fight, Tatsuya grabbed his arm and threw him down, ending the match. His sister was surprised at how powerful he was, but the big black man offered to be Tatsuya's final fight, claiming he wasn't intending on fighting for revenge. The commander still asked Tatsuya if he was comfortable with the battle, and when Tatsuya agreed, Miyuki was worried about her brother, but he told her that he would be alright. After walking to his side, both of them got into their stances, and the soldier immediately enhanced his speed with his magic. But Tatsuya leaped away. Miyuki thought it was unfair for him to use magic, but Tatsuya called out Miyuki's name, telling her that he needs to be prepared to fight magicians in the real world. As he continued dodging his attacks, Miyuki wondered if he really just used her name for the first time, and Tatsuya began using his powers while the soldier rushed towards him. In an instant, Tatsuya activated his Gram Demolition to neutralize the soldier's movement, and pinned him down. Once the match was over, the soldier admitted defeat like a good sport, and decided to introduce himself once more. He told Tatsuya that he's with the National Air Defense Force, and that his name is Danny Boner, because he has a big black cock. Tatsuya introduces himself back, and Danny hugs him close, telling him that he can give him a call if he's ever bored. 3 days later, Miyuki wondered how her brother could spend all day watching anime like a worthless fucking loser instead of touching some grass. Yes, she's also referring to you losers watching the video right now.
That one there was a violation, personally I wouldn't have.
Later that afternoon, Mia's cannons were armed once again. But as they were drinking tea, the emergency alarm began going off, and the National Defense Force announced that their defensive vessel was sunk by the enemy forces. Because of that, everyone needs to evacuate the island, and Tatsuya entered the room to escort them to the island's shelter. However, the phone began going off, and the caller was Maya, Mia's twin sister, who warned Mia to release Tatsuya's powers. Maya went on to say that she would be able to disable his limiter without even lifting a finger, so Mia agreed and hung up the phone. A few minutes later, the army tank began driving them towards the shelter, and when they arrived, Danny was going to be their personal security guard along with his other lackeys, and made them wait inside a room while the shelter was being prepared. Along with them were a few other families, but Hanami realized something was off, as shelters should always be prepared for emergencies. At the same time, Tatsuya tried calming Miyuki down, telling her that he'll always have her back. Hearing her brother say her name made her wonder what he meant by having her back. But just then, Tatsuya stood up feeling the vibrations of gunshots, and in the distance, the delayed sound finally arrived. When Hanami wondered where they were coming from, he knelt down to analyze the building, and realized there was a magic inhibitor placed on this room to restrain their abilities. Mia told him to investigate what was happening outside, and her eyes glowed as she activated her ability onto him, removing his limiter to unleash his powers. As he rushed outside, he saw the guards firing against one another, and inside the hotel, the armed guards were ready to take them to the shelter, but Mia told them to take the others first while they waited for Tatsuya. However, she revealed to Hanami that she couldn't care less about Tatsuya, but that she was doing this because she couldn't trust the soldiers. In that instant, Danny rushed inside, but his comrades began firing towards him. While they were distracted, Hanami attempted to cast a protective barrier, but one of the soldiers destroyed their force field along with their ability to cast magic. Danny began screaming at his comrade to regain his senses, but his friend told him that he's a magician who's treated like a king because of his powers, so he would never understand their struggle. Without his weapon, Danny attempted to remind them that he was their friend. But as soon as they were distracted, Miyuki casted her freezing magic, eliminating one of them. The soldier became outraged by the death of his comrade, and began gunning her down along with the rest of her family. But as soon as she was killed, a hole was ripped in the wall, and a soldier was instantly deleted. When Tatsuya landed, he began deleting the rest of the soldiers, and ran towards his sister. As he tried to save her, he placed his arm on her chest and began releasing his ultimate ability, begging for his sister to come back. Inside of her consciousness, Miyuki realized that she was actually going to die, but Tatsuya's voice continued attempting to reach her consciousness. However, she wondered why he would try to save her when all she'd done was neglect him, and wished that she would have at least apologized to him before leaving. Her last bit of strength ran out, and as she passed away, a magical circle began wrapping towards her, and her wounds began healing. As she got back up, she wondered if her brother could truly use magic, and thought that her brother had the most wonderful power in this world. Her eyes opened up to Tatsuya's face, and as he hugged her for the first time in his life, she hugged him back. When she got up, she saw how her mother had passed away, so Tatsuya pulled out his gun and pointed it towards his mother, healing her wounds with his powers and bringing her back to life. At the same time, he began repairing Hanami's wounds, but she was shocked since no healing magic in this world should bring them back from death. 30 minutes later, the leader of the army apologized for his soldiers turning into insurgents, but said that there was a large fleet of ships sailing towards them, and that 80% of the defense force had been completely destroyed. Tatsuya understood the situation, so he asked them to take his family to a safe place, and give him an armored suit and military equipment. But when the leader wondered why he would want that, Tatsuya told him that they killed his sister, so he'll burn all of them to ashes. The leader agreed only if Tatsuya spares those who surrender, but Tatsuya said that they won't even have time to surrender. While walking away, Miyuki ran to her brother and begged him not to leave and risk his life. However, Tatsuya told her that this is what he wants, because he swore to eliminate anyone who hurts his sister, and wouldn't be satisfied until he's accomplished his goal. After all, the only thing he can consider dear to him is his little sister. But when she wondered what he meant by those words, he realized that he'd accidentally revealed his secret, but said that it was time for her to finally learn the truth. Before leaving, he told her that in this world, she is the only thing he can ever consider dear to him, and he'll burn the entire planet down if that's what it takes to protect her. After walking away, the army's helicopters took off, and when the enemy fleet arrived on ground, they began rushing towards the island. But as they fired towards Tatsuya, he began firing his weapon to vaporize their bullets and delete them from existence. With his healing abilities, he revived the fallen comrades from their death, but as they watched his actions, Miyuki asked her mother to tell her the truth about her brother, so her mother promised to reveal Tatsuya's secret. But before that, she commanded her to stop calling the good-for-nothing worthless loser her brother. However, Miyuki said that Tatsuya had saved her life with his skill, but her mother said that was the only thing he's good for. After all, he was born a defective, useless magician, because in this world, magic is the ability to modify and materialize objects using their data, but Tatsuya can only destroy information and reassemble it without ever changing it. Being born without any magic, even his regrowth skill wasn't considered magic, so his sister wondered if his abilities were a miracle. Her mother went on to explain that no one can remain a Yotsuba unless they can use magic, so 7 years ago, she conducted the artificial magician plan, a forbidden surgery in which she implants her magical calculation area into his brain. But because of that mind-altering procedure, Tatsuya lost all of his impulses, his intense anger, deep sorrow, hatred, sexual desire, and even blind love. None of those impulses remained, except for a single one, in exchange for his ability to use magic. Even then, his magic was basically worthless, and he underwent horrible training every day to become useful as a guardian. At that moment, Miyuki realized that her mother also lost her emotions in that surgery, but her mother went on to reveal the only emotion Tatsuya didn't lose. When Miyuki began crying for realizing the truth, her mother went on to say that the only emotion he kept was his love for his sister. His entire life, he spent it to make his sister's life better, and barely even recognized his mother as a real parent. After learning the truth, she wondered if she could ever repay him for how horrible she's treated him. Meanwhile on the field, the remaining 6 ships began approaching the island, and as Tatsuya readied his gun, he materialized a massive barrel. Inside the base, Hanami asked if she could leave to help Tatsuya, but Mia didn't care either way, because Tatsuya was finally about to release his second ultimate ability. Before launching his fire, Tatsuya told his comrades to leave before being destroyed by the enemy, as there was no time for them to find another firing point. However, the soldiers were determined to support him until the end, so Tatsuya began aiming his barrel down and firing his shots. At the same time, the missiles from the enemy were falling towards them, so the soldiers activated their barrier magic to block the explosions. With the time they bought, Tatsuya began calculating the trajectory of the bullets he shot earlier to prepare for his final blow, but the entire fleet released all of their missiles towards him. Just then, Hanami began speeding towards them on a motorbike, and arrived in the last instant to block the explosions from killing them. The soldiers wondered how long she would be able to hold out, but before she ran out of energy, Tatsuya had finished calculating the trajectory, and fired the final bullet. After the entire fleet had been wiped out, Hanami fell off her feet, but a tsunami was about to wipe them out from the explosion, so they narrowly managed to escape. When they got away, however, Hanami told him that she had reached the end of her life, and told him that her entire life mission as an AI was to protect his family, so she had finally fulfilled her duty today. As Tatsuya was about to extend her life, she rejected his offer, saying that she's never had freedom to choose anything in her life, but this was the only time she could choose where to die, because now she can finally die as a human rather than a man-made instrument, and begged him to let her have her wish. In that moment, she closed her eyes and never opened them again. 3 years after the Akiwana incident, Tatsuya decided to further his education and enrolled at the Magic First High School. As Tatsuya walked around the school, he came across a first-course upperclassman who introduced herself as Mayumi. She told him that she was the student council president and wondered if he needed any help getting around. Tatsuya noticed her CAD device and thought she was no ordinary president, so he introduced himself, but told her that he doesn't need any help. As the entrance ceremony began, Tatsuya noticed that blooms who were ranked as the best students were sitting in front, but weeds who were considered the worst were sitting in the back. Without much thought, he already knew his spot, and shortly, a young girl in glasses asked to sit by his side. She introduced herself as Mizuki, and her friend said her name was Erika, but Tatsuya wondered why she looked worse than a useless sloppy car. As the president concluded her speech, Miyuki arrived to present her own, but Tatsuya thought she was spitting trash and could not wait to leave already. That night, when Miyuki tried making coffee for Tatsuya, she realized that not a single f***ing person congratulated him on his admission into the school. The thought made her angry, and she began to freeze the kitchen, but he stopped her just in time and managed to calm her down. It was bad enough that no one wanted him to enroll in the first place, so he couldn't possibly expect anything from their family. The next morning, they began running up the road to their training ground. And as Tatsuya arrived, a man tried to attack him, but he smacked him away and kicked another, jumping, dodging, and swiping at their weapons. At the same time, the sensei appeared before Miyuki, wondering why her useless face was at his dojo. Before she could answer, his perv mind kicked in, and he said he'll show her how to play with his sword. Just then, he blocked a sudden attack, and Tatsuya told him to quit being a disgusting ugly creep. The sensei promised to teach Tatsuya a lesson, so as Tatsuya began attacking, he noticed his invisible barrier, but the sensei attacked with a flurry of punches before kicking him away. But he landed comfortably, impressing the other fighters with this skill. At once, he began charging at the sensei, and as their sparring was over, Tatsuya lay in exhaustion. Miyuki tried to help him, but noticed that her dress was dirty, so she activated a magic technology that whitened her dress and cleaned him up. The following day at school, Mizuki and Erika noticed that Tatsuya was fast on the computer, so he told them that he was registering for lectures. A new student thought he was impressive and introduced himself as Leo, telling them that his practical skill was convergent system reinforcement magic. When he wondered what Tatsuya's practical skill was, he told him that he didn't have any, but intends to become a magic engineer. Just then, a bell rang, and the teacher entered the class, but Tatsuya wondered why she looks like a rebrand nun. As they ate inside the cafeteria, Miyuki asked to join their table, but a group of morons appeared before her. Their leader, Shun, suggested they have their lunch together, saying that the weeds were a bunch of low-ranking losers who did not deserve a spot next to them. Angered by his words, Leo tried to challenge him, but Tatsuya decided to leave the table instead. Before heading home that evening, the same group of morons returned, demanding to take Miyuki home. Shun told them that they were too useless to even be acknowledged, but Mizuki said that his mother is useless. Looking to show off his power, Shun challenged Leo to a duel and tried to shoot him with a magic-enhanced gun, but Erika smacked it away and told him he was a worthless shitface. Afraid of losing their reputation, another member tried switching on his power, but a girl activated her own, casting darkness over everyone, and her magic shattered instantly. At that moment, Mayumi arrived, saying that it was a criminal offense to attack anyone with their magic. As Mary, the disciplinary committee leader, arrived, she told them that they would be punished for using their magic, and commanded the students to follow her immediately. Tatsuya began telling her that he asked the blooms to reveal their powers, but did not realize that it would go out of control. Mary thought he was a lying sack of shit but had no evidence to support her claim. Miyuki said that it was a simple misunderstanding, and apologized for causing a disturbance. To cool off the tension, Mayumi decided to cover for them, but warned them never to activate magic on their own as it was against the school rules. Having no other choice, Mary said she would overlook the incident, but promised to keep an eye on Tatsuya. As they left, Shun told Tatsuya that he would never acknowledge him, not even for saving his sorry ass, as he was convinced that he was far too superior and deserved to have Miyuki by his side, but left anyway. When Tatsuya and Miyuki were ready to head home, two students from the Blooms appeared before them and apologized for causing them trouble. Honoka, the girl who blew up her magic, thanked Tetsuya for covering up for them so they wouldn't be expelled. When she wondered if they could walk to the station together, the weeds were shocked, wondering if she was from a different blooms. Shortly, they started walking down the street. When Honoka wondered how Miyuki modifies her CAD, she told her that Tetsuya was a CAD expert and could work his way deep inside her CAD anytime she wants. Erika thought Tetsuya was a manly man, and wondered if he would examine her own CAD, but he thought her device was more useless than her face, and told her to f**k off.
You're a victim!
The following day at school, Mayumi hurried to Tatsuya and Miyuki and asked to speak with her at lunch. So that afternoon, they arrived at the council office for the meeting. And as they began to have their lunch, Mayumi told them that they always induct a freshman into the student council every year, and asked her to join the council. Rather than accepting, Miyuki told them that Tatsuya was more deserving of the position, having had the highest score in their test. She told them that Tatsuya was a genius compared to her, and wondered if they could both be accepted into the council. Just then, Mary said that there was still an empty spot at the disciplinary committee council. She thought Tetsuya would be a fine candidate for the position, so Mayumi nominated him immediately. At that moment, the bell rang, so Mary suggested that they meet when school was over. Inside the magic practice room, Erika activated the system and directed the device over the line with a speed she thought was perfect. However, when it was Tatsuya's turn, he activated the system and directed the device but thought it was too slow. He was disappointed at his ability and wondered why he sucked so bad. So later that day, when he arrived at the office, he decided that he was not good enough for the position and thought of turning down the offer. At the sight of him, Mayumi's ugly vice president, Jayabu, turned angry and walked past him to welcome Miyuki. Miyuki thought his face looks worse than broccoli, but decided to greet him anyway. Mary told Tetsuya that they must head to the disciplinary committee headquarters immediately so he would learn his full responsibility. However, as she tried to leave, Jayabu began saying that Tatsuya was bad news, and that no weed had ever qualified for a position in the committee. Miyuki told them that Tetsuya was better than the test score, and that he could kick anyone's ass in a fight. When Miyuki tried explaining further, Tetsuya silenced her and challenged Jayabu to a simulated fight, shocking everyone. Certain he would kick his ass, Jayabu accepted his challenge. Later that day, as they prepared for their fight, Jayabu thought he couldn't possibly lose to a useless low-ranking loser who couldn't even pass his practical skills test. On top of that, with his CAD that activates magic twice as fast, Jayabu was certain that he would win. He thought he could easily activate his speed-reliant sequence before Tatsuya, and using a single system movement spell, he would fling him into the wall with a powerful force that would turn him into a vegetable. As Mary commanded the duel to begin, Jayabu prepared to launch his attack, but Tatsuya knocked him down in an instant, leaving everyone in shock, as they wondered how he appeared behind him so fast. However, Mary declared him the winner, and they thought he was a ghost or something. When it was over, she asked if he activated a self-acceleration skill before the fight started, but he told her that his skill wasn't even magic, but was rather a physical movement. Miyuki told them that Tatsuya was training with a ninjutsu master, but Mayumi wondered if he used a spell from ninjutsu. So Tatsuya told her that his skill was a basic level vibration spell that he created with Sion waves. Even so, Mayumi thought Sion waves weren't strong enough to knock someone out, so Tatsuya explained that he had overwhelmed Jayabu with enough Sions that made him feel as if he was having a terrible seasickness. When Mayumi wondered how he managed to release waves so powerful, Suzyun explained that Tatsuya had released 3 Sion waves of different frequencies, and directed them right at Jayabu so they would create a very strong wave together. She thought his abilities were incredible, and wondered how the f*** his practical exam score was low. Tatsuya told her that the school has a terrible grading system, and that most of his abilities were overlooked in the test. Regaining consciousness, Jayabu told them that the practical test was scored only on the speed of activating a spell, and accepting he was a loser, he decided to apologize to Miyuki, saying that he had allowed his emotions to cloud his judgment, and had wrongly condemned her words. However, he was too ashamed to make peace with Tatsuya and decided to leave instead. At home that night, Miyuki asked Tatsuya to upgrade her CAD so she could multitask with her skills, so he agreed to help her, and shortly scanned her in a device. However, when she was done, rather than going straight to bed like every other good supporting MC, she decided to play devil's advocate, and wondered if her brother wants to develop plot with her. Miyuki wondered if he would have Mayumi for a one-night stand, or would rather have a Dothraki-style threesome with Mary. But Tatsuya wondered if she was high on some PG meds. At once, she grabbed her CAD, saying that she would rather have him all to herself so they can have their own wicked evil Joffrey, and activated a spell that knocked him down from his seat, making him to lose consciousness in that instant. At once, his self-restoration began, and his magic sequence was loaded. and as he finally woke up, Miyuki told him that it was morning already. That day in the disciplinary office, Mary introduced Tatsuya and Shun as the newest members of the committee, saying that they would start their patrol immediately, and commanded the other members to head for their duty. With the men gone, she told Tatsuya and Shun that they were allowed to use magic devices inside the school, since they were now part of the disciplinary committee, but warned them never to misuse their new privileges. Before long, he began patrolling the school, and soon came across a group of students who were trying to force Erika to join their club. Deciding to save her, he activated his CAD, and as he rushed to her, he knocked out the first guy and hurried off with the girl. When they arrived at a safe spot, Erika told him that she doesn't want to be alone, so they visited a kendo club together. However, Erika thought the kendo practice really sucked, and couldn't wait to leave. Just then, they noticed two teams on the court, arguing over space, and the arrogant douche decided to challenge the girl to a duel. The girl, Mibu, had placed second in the kendo tournament, but the dude, Takaki, was champion of the Kanto region. He promised he wouldn't activate his magic, but she called him a lying ass loser, saying that he could never defeat her without cheating. At the same time, Tatsuya began to record them, realizing the situation was about to escalate. Immediately, Takaki charged at her, and they raised their sticks to strike each other. However, they realized that Takaki's stick merely grazed her arm, but her stick would have impaled his heart if it was an actual weapon. She told him to admit defeat, seeing as he would be dead in an actual fight. But Takaki began saying that she was demanding for a real fight, and activated his core instantly. As he prepared to use his vibration combat magic and high-frequency blade, Tatsuya realized that this nutcase was about to take a little sparring way too far. In a flash, Takaki slashed at Mibu, narrowly missing her, and she realized she could have easily entered Nirvana. Takaki tried to attack again, but Tatsuya appeared before him and unleashed Sion waves that cooled off his weapon, as he immediately wrestled him to the floor. However, when the students realized he was a weed, one tried to grab him, but he whisked away. When he wondered why his friend was being arrested, Tatsuya said that he had used his magic inappropriately. Even so, the dude tried punching him, but he evaded and dodged another, causing him to bump into the other. As the other members attacked him, Mibu tried to support him, but her captain restrained her. At the same time, Tatsuya jammed their CADs, and merely danced around the useless student, and the captain thought he was impressive. The following day at school, Tatsuya was informed that a group of students were fighting in the gym and had to arrest them immediately, so he hurried off. However, as he ran past the trees, a mysterious hand tried attacking him with magic, but he predicted the spell and released Sion waves that destroyed it immediately. And as the worthless loser ran off, he noticed his wristband, but he took off before he reached him. The following day in class, Leo told Tatsuya that he became famous ever since he took down the ugly band of losers in the kendo club, and ever since had become the local champ. Just then, Tatsuya noticed Miyuki spying at him from the entrance, and as they began heading to grab lunch, they came across Mibu, whom Tatsuya had rescued from the ugly, worthless Takaki. As she wondered if they could have lunched together, Tatsuya told her he was not interested in playing gigolo, and told her to go get a life. However, she told him that she would be waiting at the cafe if he changes his mind. As Tatsuya prepared to leave, Miyuki asked if he would visit the girl, and grew jealous at the thought of sharing her brother. She told him that she was happy he was growing famous, but was afraid that his true abilities would soon be discovered. Tatsuya told her that he would be perfectly safe, and said that he would keep his true abilities hidden away from everyone. Later that day, Tatsuya was invited to the counseling room, but he wondered why Miss Counselor was dressed like a retired stripper. She told him that he was invited for a mental experiment to discover if he was a perv. To determine if he truly was one, she told him that she must ask him some questions. By the time the questions were over, she asked if Mibu was his new lover, but he told her to stick her ugly nose into her business and called it a rumor. That evening at school, Mibu told the captain that she was sick of being bullied due to her inability to use magic, and was bent on changing the school's activities. The captain thought that Tatsuya was their only hope of making progress, and told her to win him over to their club. At home that night, Tatsuya revealed to Miyuki that a secret anti-magic group was starting to infiltrate the school, and thought they were up to no good. While heading to the gym a few days ago, a student had attacked him, and he told her that he was certain the dude wore the organization's wristband. Hearing his words, Miyuki wondered if the anti-magic group intend to destroy the country to even their odds, so Tatsuya told her that it was possible, but thought their family would investigate this secret organization. Miyuki was afraid that they would have to return home once their family got involved, so Tatsuya promised to handle the situation before it got out of hand. A few days later, Tatsuya prepared for a new test, and as the system activated, it began estimating his magic speed, and he realized that it was over 900 milliseconds, and he thought he might be hopeless of ever improving his practical skills. At the cafeteria that afternoon, Mibu told Tatsuya that she intends to demand for better treatment for all the first course students if he decides to join her club. However, Tatsuya was not convinced and asked to know what she really hopes to change. Mibu thought the entire f***ing school could be changed, but Tatsuya told her that she was too confused to make up her mind on what was truly important. He told her that his only desire was to graduate from the school and abandon everything else. Realizing they had different intentions, Tatsuya told her that he wouldn't be joining their club and decided to leave. That afternoon, Mibu's secret group began announcing on the Pihei system that they intend to fight for equality in the school. They demanded to negotiate with the student council and threatened to destroy the school if their demands were not met. When Tatsuya and Miyuki arrived, Mary told them that they had cut off power but could not make their way into the room as the door had been barricaded. At once, Tatsuya called Mibu and began telling her that the committee was willing to negotiate with them, promising they would not be arrested. Before long, they restrained the students, and Mibu wondered why Tatsuya had tricked her. Just then, Mayumi arrived and commanded that they release the students. She said that Mibu could not decide the terms of their negotiation on her own, but that she needed the support of the others. After all, they were all considered students of the school. She said that the student council would handle the situation and suggested they leave for the negotiation at once. That day at school, Tatsuya spotted the captain as he tried to persuade Mizuki to join his club and thought he was the same dude that attacked him a few days ago. As he left, Mizuki told him that he was the captain of Mibu's kendo club and said that he has the same hypersensitivity skill that she possesses. That night, the sensei began telling Tatsuya and Miyuki that the captain was a member of the anti-magic group that often attacks the city, and that his brother was the leader of another famous anti-magic group in Japan. He said that he was up to no good and was certain that they would attempt to ruin the debate. On the day of the debate, two mysterious men abandoned a truck outside the school and took off before they were spotted. Inside the hall, the kendo club rep began telling everyone that the school's system was rigged to only favor magic users. However, Mayumi thought the dude was just paranoid and began explaining that the committee does not have the power to change everything in the school, but promised to change the rule that made it impossible for second course students to join the student council. As she let out those words, the students began to applaud her inspiring speech. And with that, the kendo club knew they had lost their only shot at success. Just then, explosions rocked the hall, and members of the anti-magic group tried running away, but the committee members managed to arrest them. At that moment, a tear gas was fired into the hall, and it released toxic gas, but Jayabu sealed it with a spell and hurled it outside. Shortly, 3 men burst into the hall, but started choking as Mary squeezed every breath out of their lungs. Outside, several men arrived and began blasting at the school. Tatsuya offered to secure the building, and realizing that 2 deaths were better than 1, Mary commanded them to leave immediately. At the same time, Leo was kicking the bad guys around. When one of them tried to blast him with magic, Miyuki cast a spell under their feet and raised them high towards the sky before allowing them to hit the ground. Leo was happy to see them, and Erika thought they now have an advantage. When Tatsuya wondered where the rest of them were, the teacher-turned-counselor appeared before them, saying that the men's true intention was to attack the library, and that their attack on the hall was a mere diversion. She told them that Mibu was working with the men, but said that they shouldn't condemn her for her poor decisions as she was being toyed with like a Barbie doll and was trying to overcome her own demons. When they realized he was running off to the library, the others started running after him. At the same time, the men were beating up the students, but Leo activated his Panzer Fist and punched one away. Miyuki thought his skill was impressive, so Tatsuya told her that Leo had cast a reinforcement spell on his CAD, and he continued blocking all the attacks. As he charged at a man, he destroyed his shield, but Tatsuya told him to head for the library. Inside, Tatsuya activated a new power and was able to scan the building and discovered the precise positions of all the men. Immediately, Erika began rushing forward and drew her weapon as 2 men appeared before her. Within a moment, she jabbed one and knocked the other. As another man appeared, Erika managed to stop him, telling them that she would kick his ass on her own. At that instant, Miyuki raised Tatsuya with a spell, and he flew over them, leaping off the wall, and she activated her device and followed him. Inside a private room, Mibu wondered if she was doing the right thing, seeing as the mysterious men were trying to steal all the school's magic data. However, before they could copy the data, the door fell open, and Tatsuya shot a signal that destroyed their devices. When one of them tried to shoot, Miyuki froze his hand instantly, and he realized he wouldn't be unwrapping any gifts for Christmas. Tatsuya began telling Mibu that there could never be equality in the world, and that she had merely allowed herself to be tricked into making bad decisions. However, she thought her intentions were right, and wondered why Tatsuya was not angry at the world. Miyuki told her that Tatsuya was a dozen times smarter than her, and that he always earned his respect rather than demanding it. She thought Mibu was just a scrawny, useless, lazy flat ass, and said that she really needs to get a life.
Damn!
She told her that Tatsuya had noticed her ugly face and had even thought of making her his second wife, but realized that she was far too useless. She told her that she had always looked down on herself, but was too afraid to take responsibility. With Mibu still in shock from the realization, one of the men screamed at her to activate her ring, so she unleashed a cast jamming to destroy Miyuki's magic, but Tatsuya knocked down the men without breaking a sweat, and spotted Mibu running away. Miyuki tried to end her, but Tatsuya told her to allow her leave, saying that Erika was waiting to kick her ass. At that moment, Mibu came across Erika, and the redhead introduced herself. She told her that she had watched her at the kendo tournament, and was sad to see her become a loser and a painful embarrassment to her family. Desperate to escape, Mibu grabbed a weapon, but Erika promised to school her ass anyway, and threw down a sword if she wishes to change weapons, before drawing her own weapon. As she charged at her, Mibu thought she was fast, and managed to block her attacks, as Erika flashed across her. Mibu realized that she had activated a self-acceleration ability. As Erika ran to her, she activated the cast jamming, and began attacking her with relentless attacks. But Erika fought back, breaking her weapon in half. Eager for more action, Erika told her to take up another weapon, saying that she wants to kick her ass fair and square. So Mibu threw away the ring, and picked up the sword, accepting the challenge. She said that she noticed her technique was the same as Mary's, and was certain she could defeat her now, but Erika told her that she couldn't beat her even in her own dreams. In a flash, Erika knocked her down, and she realized that her bones were fractured. She told her that Mary was actually a pupil in their training school, and that regardless of her position in the disciplinary committee, she was still her senior in training. Immediately, she caught Mibu as she passed out. Later that day, a member of the committee appeared before the captain, wondering where he had been hiding. So the captain tried escaping, but another student appeared before him. As he cast a jamming signal, the dude knocked the air right out of his fucking lungs. That evening in the infirmary, Mibu began explaining everything that happened with the captain, and said that he had tricked her into joining the anti-magic group after realizing that she was a hopeless lonely loser. Mary told her that she wasn't a loser, but was unlucky to become his victim. As Mibu grew sad, Tetsuya told her to be proud of her achievements, and said that she has grown stronger all on her own, even without getting acknowledged by anyone. Touched by his kind words, she began to cry like a kid who lost her candy. When that rap was over, Tetsuya told them that he intends to annihilate every member of the anti-magic group. As Miyuki asked to come along, Erika and Leo offered to be their backup. Just then, he opened the door, revealing Miss Counselor, who had been eavesdropping on their conversation. Before long, they discovered the secret group hideout, and Kasudo offered to come along. After all, he was a member of the 10 master clans, and thought he was ready to face off against any threat. Within a few hours, they began heading towards the hideout, and Tatsuya told them that they must capture the leader of the group. As they arrived, Leo cast a panzer spell to protect the vehicle as they crashed through the gate. Inside the hideout, Tatsuya scanned the building and discovered that several men were waiting ahead, but he was ready for them. As they entered a storage room, the sunlight flashed on Tatsuya's eyes, and they discovered an ugly-ass dude standing before them. He introduced himself as Hajime, and said that he was the leader of the anti-magic group. Immediately, Tatsuya pointed his weapon at him and commanded them to surrender, but the dude thought he was a clown and laughed at his disgusting face. In hopes of expanding his army, he asked Tatsuya to join his squad. However, Tatsuya wasn't buying his crap, and told him that he already knew that he tried manipulating Mibu into persuading him to join their group, but said that he was no simp. Realizing he had a better chance convincing a robot, Hajime decided to try his backup plan and threw his glasses towards the roof. Using the distraction, he activated a mind control spell, but Tatsuya knew exactly what he intended to do, and wondered if he had controlled Mibu's mind the same way. The dude was in shock, and wondered how Tatsuya resisted his spell. Tatsuya told him that he noticed how he activated his CAD, and already knew that the glasses was merely a distraction. He had seen through his spell before he activated it, and thought it was a cheap trick that failed before it even began. Realizing he had run out of tricks, Hajime commanded his men to shoot them, but their guns shattered instantly. And at the sight of this, the dude thought he was screwed, and began running off, but Tatsuya followed him. However, one loser thought he could play hero, and charged at him with a knife, but Miyuki froze him on the spot, turning him into a pillar of ice. As Tatsuya left, Miyuki grew angry, and as she activated her device, she cast an ice spell that began to freeze them up, turning them all to blocks of ice. At the same time, Kasudo shielded all the gunfires, and his backup charged at the men, slashing their gun, and kicking them around like an angry, revengeful ex. In the meantime, Tetsuya scanned the building and discovered another set of men. At once, he fired at them, and their guns shattered instantly. To utilize the opportunity, all the men activated their jamming signal. Even so, Tetsuya began to fire at them, and Hajime wondered how the fuck he could still use his weapon. Just then, a light blade slashed the door, and Kasudo's backup realized that Tatsuya had taken out the men on his own. When Tatsuya told him that Hajime was the leader of the anti-magic group, he grew angry, realizing the dude had nearly ruined the life of his crush, Mibu, so he sliced off his member. With Hajime screaming in pain, Kasudo activated a spell to put him to sleep. That night, as the forces carried away the wounded men, Miyuki realized that the frozen dudes were starting to unfreeze. After a few weeks, Tatsuya returned to the hospital with Miyuki and Erika, glad that Mibu was finally leaving. Just then, her father asked to speak with Tatsuya in private and thanked him for saving his daughter, saying that Mibu had returned to her right frame of mind after hearing his kind words the other day. He thought Tatsuya had saved her from herself and told him that he would make a fine son-in-law. As he rejoined the group, Erika decided to ask Mibu whom she would rather go home with. She said that Tatsuya would make a fine candidate, and wondered if her preferred choice was the backup Kirihara. Deciding to admit her feelings, Mibu began telling them that she had loved Tatsuya from the start, and had considered him a strong dependable man that could save her when she was in trouble. On the other hand, she said that Kirihara was a great companion, and was stuck in her friend zone forever. Hearing her words, Kirihara knew he was fucked, and was never getting out of the friend zone. As Miyuki and Tatsuya left the hospital, she asked him why he had decided to enroll at the high school, seeing as his abilities were far too great for any student. Tatsuya told her that he enjoys being a student, and said that he wished to share these moments with her. That night during training, Miyuki flew high and began slaying flaming balls. Using a spell, she ascended higher, and destroyed the rest before easing her landing with another spell. At that instant, Tatsuya noticed a presence in the trees, but the sensei knew who it was already. Before their eyes, Miss Counselor stepped into the light, wondering how they sensed her in the woods, but Tatsuya demanded to know why she was stalking him. The sensei told them that she was his old student, and had probably come to say hello. Even so, Tatsuya was not satisfied with the answer, and demanded to know why she looked like a ninja trying to sneak into the White House. The sensei told them that the counselor was a secret investigator for the Public Security Agency, and she told them that she was hired right after getting assigned as a counselor. She asked them to keep it a secret, and said that her identity would be compromised if she was discovered. A few days later, Tatsuya and his friends won a football game at school, and thought a quiet dude had helped them to win. So after the game, Leo and Tatsuya introduced themselves, and said that he may become the next Lionel Messi with his skills. However, the dude, Mikahiko, thought they were merely flattering him, and said that he wasn't even certain he would make it into the junior academy, but was happy to make 2 new friends. That afternoon in the office, Mayumi began telling the members that they would be participating in the 9 schools competition within a few weeks. She told them that it was a renowned event that happened only once in a decade, and that the school's reputation was at stake, as this was their chance to earn some respect for the next decade. So that afternoon in a meeting, Mayumi announced that the council was recommending Tatsuya for a position as a technical staff. Hoping to convince them, Kasuto suggested that Tatsuya reveals his true ability to everyone, and adjust a CAD device to prove himself. Willing to take the risk, Kirihara offered to be the guinea pig. Before long, Tatsuya began copying Kirihara's data into another CAD. As the scanning was completed, he began copying the remaining data manually, and everyone wondered how he typed so fast on a keyboard. Within a few seconds, he was done, and Kirihara put on the CAD, activating his light blade. Kasuto asked if he felt sick with this new CAD, but he told him that he was perfectly fine. Asuza told them that Tatsuya was a rare talent, and that kicking him off their team was basically shooting themselves in the foot. One student tried saying that Tatsuya was not special, but Jayabu told him that no one could complete the same task so well, and suggested that they include him in their team because even he could not afford to be petty. With everyone now in agreement, Kasuto agreed to include him. However, that night, the major of Tatsuya's secret department commanded him to complete a performance test the following day, but he hoped it wouldn't disturb his preparations for the contest. The major told him that a secret group had been spotted in the area of the competition, and warned him to be cautious. That night, as Miyuki revealed her outfit for the competition, Tatsuya told her that she looks pretty, and thought that she would surely win. Before her eyes, he began to rise with a flight technique, and she was impressed with his success. She told him that she was proud to be his sister, and thought their babies would be cute. Tatsuya told her that he was closer to achieving his ultimate goal, and asked her to be his test monkey, so she accepted him immediately. Inside an underground floor, she activated the device, casting a spell under her, and began floating in the air. Tatsuya wondered how she felt, so she told him that she felt no dizziness or anything like that. Delighted by her words, he told her to fly all across the room. Without hesitating, she cast another spell, and went right through it, calling herself a goddess, and began flying around the underground. After a few days, Tatsuya and Miyuki visited a development center, and Tatsuya revealed the flight device to a renowned researcher, Ashiyama. He told him that he had programmed gravity control into the device, and wondered if they could make duplicates of it. Before long, they decided to experiment with a dude, and as he activated the spell, he began ascending towards the roof. They discovered that his CAD was stable, and that he could move on his own without feeling sick. Realizing it was safe, the other dudes began to activate the flying spell, and Ashiyama thought Tatsuya was a true genius. When they were done, Tatsuya and Miyuki began to leave the facility, but came across their father and the family butler. When Miyuki wondered why the butler wasn't acknowledging Tatsuya's presence, He said that Tatsuya was an ordinary bodyguard that was worse than a cockroach. Miyuki thought he was rude and tried saying that her brother deserves to be respected, but the butler told her that everyone desires to see her become the next leader of the Atsuba family, and that Tatsuya was totally irrelevant as he had no position in the family. Angered by his words, Miyuki began casting ice and was ready to freeze his ugly face. But Tatsuya stopped her just in time. As his father tried calming him down, Tatsuya called him a weak, spineless loser and began to leave with his sister. That afternoon, during the opening ceremony, Miyuki gave him a lapel pin and the crowd applauded him. When the ceremony was over, Tatsuya introduced himself to a group of students, saying that he was their new CAD operator, but the girls wondered if he could operate deep inside their CADs at the same time.
What do you mean by that?
That evening after school, Mizuki sensed the presence of spirits inside the building and decided to take a look. As she arrived inside a class, she noticed that Mikihiko was trying to summon several spirits. As he sensed her presence, the spirits began flying towards her, but Tatsuya appeared to save her. He apologized to Mikihiko for disturbing his spell and said that the spirits would have devoured Mizuki if he didn't rescue her. When he wondered why Mikihiko was practicing spirit magic, he told him that he was learning to summon monsters. Impressed with this discovery, Tatsuya asked Mizuki what kind of spirits she had seen, and she told him they were a strange blue and light spirit, but she had been too afraid to get a better look. Hearing her words, Mikihiko grew impressed and thought he would acquire the same ability from kissing her. Tatsuya told them to get a room, but Mizuki apologized for getting carried away. Mikihiko told her that he has always wished to have crystal eyes like her own, and had lost himself in her beauty. Tatsuya thought his pickup lines sucked. The following day, as the students were ready to leave for the contest, Mayumi arrived late to the bus and apologized to Tatsuya, but he could care less and told her to get her flat ass inside.
What did he say?
Thinking she could ride his bone all the way to their destination, she wondered if he would sit beside her, but he told her that her face was too ugly and said that it would give him nightmares. As the buses drove away, Miyuki grew sad that she wasn't riding with her brother and wondered why they had to be separated. At the same time on the road, Van-kun lost control and flew over to their lane, looking to isekai as many victims as possible. But the driver stepped on the brakes, managing to bring the bus to a stop. Even so, Van-kun was hungry for victims and began skidding towards the bus. At that moment, all the students prepared to unleash their magic, but Mary commanded them to cease their attack as their magic would only cancel each other. She tried telling Kasuto to stop the vehicle, but he told her that he could not extinguish the flames. Miyuki offered to extinguish it and cast a spell that destroyed the shields before putting out the fires instantly. Without hesitating, Kasuto cast a shield and the vehicle slammed into it. With peace restored, everyone wondered what the fuck just happened. After arriving at their destination, Tatsuya told Miyuki that he sensed magic at the accident scene and thought the driver had caused his own accident. As they arrived inside, they came across Erika, but Tatsuya thought her horrendous face deserved no audience and hurried away. That night, during the banquet, Erika appeared before Tatsuya, but he said her maid outfit looked more clapped than her face. Before long, a man welcomed all the students and decided to introduce the director of the Magic Association for his speech. Just then, the hall went dark and a lady appeared in the light. Tatsuya noticed sensory interference magic around the hall and wondered if the director had cast everyone into a large-scale spell. But the lady soon left, and a man without eyeballs appeared before them. He told them that the lady was a test, and that only 5 people managed to realize it. He said that the rest of them were worthless failures, and that they would all be dead if he had tried to annihilate them all. That night outside the hotel, Mikihiko tried practicing his summoning magic, but sensed the presence of mysterious men, and thought they were burglars. As he cast the spirits towards them, they were repelled by another magic, and he realized they were not ordinary burglars. He tried hurrying to the spot, but thought he was too weak, having lost most of his powers in an incident a few years ago. As he thought of reporting to the security, he remembered that Tatsuya had taken down some upperclassmen without any magic. This thought inspired him, and he was certain that he could do the same, so he began chasing them. After spotting the men, he cast light spells, and their guns shattered before they could use them. Just then, powerful lightning electrocuted them like worthless piece of trash. As he appeared before them, he thought someone must have destroyed their guns, and wondered who it was. At that moment, Tatsuya appeared before his eyes, and he was happy to see a familiar face. At the hotel, when Tatsuya first discovered the presence of the 3 men, he had realized that Mikihiko would not reach them in time, so he hurried off to support him. And as he noticed that Mikihiko's spell was taking too long to activate, he decided to destroy the men's weapons, finally causing them to be electrocuted before revealing himself to Mikihiko. As soon as he left, the Major appeared and began telling him that Mikihiko was just like him, as Tatsuya had a similar struggle accepting himself. However, Tatsuya told him that he was no babysitter and said that Mikihiko could deal with his shit on his own. The following day, as the competition was finally ready to begin, Tatsuya noticed that Mary was confident about winning. But Erika thought she was merely showing off. At the sound of a gun, the girls took off, and one girl caused a wave to disturb the water. But Mary was unfazed, and as she activated a spell, she surfed even faster. Tatsuya told the girls that she had cast a reinforcement magic and a multicast movement at the same time. And with this magic, she was able to fix herself to the board so she wouldn't fall off. At the same time, she was casting movement magic that helped her to keep her balance. Just then, Mary jumped to the lower pool, splashing water on the others, and Tatsuya said that her strategy had helped her to win the race. That afternoon, as Tatsuya arrived at a private meeting, the Major told him that the mysterious men were members of the No-Head Dragon, which were a secret group of criminals that intend to start a war. The Major told him that their intention was to destroy the competition, but hopes that they're discovered soon. The following day, Tatsuya arrived at the arena for the quarterfinals of the competition, and saw Mayumi take the stage with her competitor. As the light signaled green, they began firing at objects, but Mayumi was 3 times as fast and didn't even miss a target until she scored a perfect 100 and won the round. The next day, Mayumi asked Tatsuya if he could stretch her out, and bent over to show him how flexible she was.
We must stay focused, brothers. We must stay focused.
When she was done, she wondered why he wasn't simping over her like every other moron. So he told her that he has a lot of shit to deal with and several CADs to operate. As another contest began, Mayumi hit all her targets until her opponents surrendered. At the same time, Chiyoda prepared for her own contest, and as the alarm went off, she activated a spell and cast her magic at her rival's eyes, managing to destroy a pillar with her vibration-type magic. Her opponent activated a defensive magic to protect her eyes, but Chiyoda's magic was stronger, and it weakened and continued destroying her pillars. Desperate to even the score, the girl went on the offense and managed to take down her ice, but Chiyoda released more magic and successfully demolished all her pillars at once. However, later that day, Suzyun told them that they have only a slight chance of winning the competition. One student told them that the only way to secure their first position was to win 4 of their 6 final contests. That evening at the hotel, Miyuki and the others visited Tatsuya, hoping to keep him company. As Erika noticed his newest invention, she wondered if he would allow her to try it out, but he told her she was too ugly for it, and threw the box to Leo, telling him to activate it. So that night, Leo decided to try the weapon, and activated a spell that caused it to divide and ascend into the air, before rejoining once again. Leo thought the blade was impressive, and was happy that it only needed reinforcement magic to extend itself. Tatsuya told him that the power of the blade was to increase in length, but said that it has an invisible middle that keeps it attached. To put the blade to test, Tatsuya summoned broomsticks from the ground, and Leo was prepared to slay them all. As he charged forward, he began knocking the brooms around and eventually broke them to pieces. The following day, as another contest began, Mary took off on the water, but noticed that her closest rival was closing up. As she tried surfing around the corner, she realized that her rival had lost control, and before she knew it, the girl slipped from her board and began flying towards her. When Mary tried to evade her board dipped into the water, and she crashed into her, knocking them both out of the water. Realizing she may be wounded, Tatsuya offered to see her immediately. That evening, when Mary woke up at the hospital, Mayumi told her that she had broken her ribs from the fall, and that they were being held in place by magic. As memories of the race returned to her mind, Mary told Mayumi that her board had dipped right before her accident. Mayumi thought it was unusual, and told her that someone had attacked the water with magic. Inside the hotel, Tatsuya told the others that an outsider had definitely attacked Mary with magic, but Kei wondered how they would discover who it was. He told them that the competition has several magicians whose duty was to cancel all forms of magic that could interfere with the contest, and he wondered how a magic user could have evaded all the security and cast a spell on the water. Later that night, Mayumi told the committee that they had only 2 major contests left, and that the only way to win the competition was by winning both contests. She told them that a poor performance in their final 2 contests would cause them to lose their first place. However, since one of the 2 contests offered more points than the other, Suzyun told them that they had decided to abandon the lesser contest for the higher one, hoping to increase their chances of finishing with the highest score. This was all or nothing, and Mayumi told Miyuki that they were putting all their eggs into her basket, and were choosing her to represent the school in the final contest. Tatsuya thought she really has a chance, and told her that she would succeed, inspiring her with his words. The next day at the arena, as Shizuku readied herself for her own contest, the girls wondered if she would perform well, seeing as Tatsuya was only servicing her CAD for the first time. As the contest began, Shizuku started firing at her targets, barely missing any, and eventually scoring a perfect 100. Later in the tent, Suzyun told Mayumi that the boys had lost their races again, and were cementing their reputation as worthless ugly losers. With only one race remaining, Mayumi hoped by a miracle that they would win. Inside the lab, Tatsuya told Shizuku that he had upgraded her weapon and was certain that she would win her next round. So she thanked him for believing in her and began to leave. As the contest began, she started blasting her targets, and her score increased twice as fast as her opponent. When it was over, she scored a perfect 100, and her friends celebrated her success. After the contest, Mayumi thanked Tatsuya for helping them to win and sustain the top 3 spots, but he told her to thank the students instead. With Tatsuya unmoved by the excitement, Suzyun wondered why he was always depressed and ugly, but he gave her no answer. The following day, before the next contest started, Tatsuya met Hanoka in the arena, and told her that he came to offer her some help before the race began. And before long, Hanoka began to prepare for the race. Tatsuya told the girls that he came up with a trick to help her win, since the participants weren't allowed to cast their magic on each other. So they put on their sunshades and waited for the race to begin. As a noise signaled the start, Hanoka activated her magic, and a blinding light shone on their faces, throwing the riders off balance. Using this distraction, Hanoka sped off, surfing quickly through the waters without any opponent in sight, and before long, darted through the finish lane. Excited to have won, Hanoka thanked Tatsuya for his help, and soon began crying like a kid. She said that she had always been a worthless loser, but for the first time in her useless life she won a race, and was now heading to the quarterfinals. That evening at the hotel, Mayumi and Mary discovered that the boys had lost once again after a screwed-up performance. At this rate, if they lost the competition, they would definitely hold the weak boys responsible. Inside Chinatown, a mysterious group of men began to wonder how they could switch the results of the contest, afraid that their team's failure would make them bankrupt. They thought that offing themselves might be a better option, but the leader suggested that they destroy every other team before it was too late. At the hotel, Tatsuya found Miyuki inside his room, and wondered why she was not asleep already, so she told him that she wishes to speak with him. When he wondered what it was, she asked him why he had turned down the offer to include his name in the encyclopedia. So he told her that the Magic University was capable of investigating his abilities, and knew they could uncover his identity as Taurus Silver and figure out his relationship with the Yotsuba family. He said that he wasn't powerful enough to hide his identity, and even though he could kick their aunt's ass in a one-on-one fight, he couldn't force the Yotsuba family to serve him. He said that even if he were to eliminate their aunt, a far worse enemy would take her place, and so they had no other choice but to keep obeying her commands. Immediately, Miyuki held on to him, saying that she was on his side and would support him forever. The next day, Shizuku appeared at the arena for the next round of the contest. As a blue light signaled the start, Shizuku and a dude activated their CADs, and he cast a shield to protect his pillars, but her magic destroyed several of them. The dude realized that he was losing, and tried destroying her pillars to even the score, but she cast several spells to protect them, and crushed what was left of his own pillars, winning the round instantly. Later that day, as Tatsuya worked on a CAD, Hanoka began admiring him, and thought he must have a gentle touch. She remembered the first day she saw him during their entrance exam, and realized that she had first seen Miyuki activate her magic and direct the object with impressive speed. She had thought Miyuki was a special talent, and wondered if she could ever become so powerful. When it was Tatsuya's turn, she had watched him direct the object with lesser speed, but thought his magic was beautiful, and wondered how he made it look effortless. At that moment, Mayumi and the committee arrived, and Mayumi said that they came to offer Miyuki their support, but she kindly told them to shove it. Before long, Miyuki appeared inside the arena. As a blue light signaled the start, her rival tried activating her CAD, but realized that Miyuki had already cast a spell on both sets of pillars. As she melted her opponent's side with Inferno, she protected her own side with Ice. The girl tried increasing her magic, but Miyuki's magic overwhelmed her, and in a final attempt, Miyuki cast a powerful ice that consumed her side instantly, and Tatsuya was proud of his sister. That night, as the students celebrated their success, the girls began to wonder how Tatsuya increased Miyuki's CAD, and upgraded her skills for the contest. They thought he was awesome, and hoped he would service them just as well. One girl grew jealous, and wondered why Tatsuya was not allowed to service her until she climaxed, as she thought her own engineer was not manly enough. Hearing her words, Shun got angry, realizing his ugly ass may soon be replaced, and decided to leave the hall. As he walked down the passage, he told his friends that they must win their next contest even if they had to cheat, thinking it was the only way they could prove they were better than Tatsuya. As another contest began, Erika noticed that the participants were all wearing sunshades, afraid that Hanoka would try casting another blinding spell. At the sound of a gun, the girls took off immediately, sliding down the waterway. But a rival slowed down at a bend, allowing Hanoka to take the lead. As they arrived at another bend, the girl slowed down again, but Hanoka increased her speed. At that moment, Mikihiko realized that the other surfers were wearing dark goggles, and that each time they arrived at a bend, they slowed down so they wouldn't smack into a wall. On the other hand, Hanoka was wearing normal goggles and was traveling with enough speed to sustain her first position. This was Tatsuya's strategy, and as she flew over the finish lane, she knew he was definitely a genius. After the contest, Mayumi thanked the girls for their performance, saying that they had dominated the Pillars Break contest and had all made it to the final. However, Shizuku told her that she was willing to fight for the top spot, even if it meant challenging her own teammate. Determined to prove herself, Miyuki agreed to compete with her. So the following day, they took their stands on opposite sides of the arena. As a light signaled the start, Miyuki unleashed her inferno, but Shizuku shielded her pillars. However, when she realized that the inferno was melting them anyway, she decided to use a different CAD and blasted Miyuki's pillar with a Phonon Mazer. Even so, Miyuki thought she was too ugly and weak, and cast a powerful freezing spell that spread across the pillars and began melting them. To end the contest, Miyuki unleashed her full inferno, destroying all the pillars at once. The next day, as Tatsuya arrived at the team's tent, Miyuki told him that their teammates were wounded in an accident. However, Shizuku thought it was no accident, but a deliberate attack to render their team useless. As Mayumi arrived, she told him that the team were attacked with battering ram right before their round, and were buried under the rubble. Convinced that the officials were at fault, Tatsuya wondered if the contest would be postponed until their men were recovered. However, Mayumi hoped there would be a solution, and asked to speak with him privately. Inside the private room, Tatsuya revealed that he had captured 3 burglars who intended to break into the hotel on their very first night, and had discovered that they were Hong Kong-based criminals who were trying to decide a winner for the contest. At the same time in town, the mysterious men were at a meeting again, wondering if their plans were working out perfectly. With the leader unwilling to take any risks, he suggested that they get rid of the entire team. That night, as the Mirage Bat began, 2 girls on Tatsuya's squad began slicing the lights before every other opponent. That night after the contest, Tatsuya was invited to a meeting with the committee, and Mayumi thanked him for his efforts. Due to his strategies and upgrade on their CADs, she said that they were able to sustain first place with a lead of over 50 points. She said that even if they withdrew from the monolith code, they would merely drop to second place. However, she was unwilling to settle for less, and told him she wants to win every round of the f***ing competition, and asked him to fill the spot of the wounded boys, as only he was man enough to give Masaki and Shinkuru a run for their money. Tatsuya told her that he couldn't replace the students as it was against the competition's rules, but Mayumi told him that he was allowed to be the exception. She said that he was their best substitute, and Mary was confident that he could kick anyone's ass. Determined to stay out of it anyway, Tatsuya tried saying that he was a weak, ugly loser that was too useless to even beat a chicken, and that they were better off choosing a first-course student. Having heard enough, Kasuto reminded him that he was a member of the committee, and said that his duty was to obey Mayumi's commands. And with every member of the committee in agreement, Kasuto told him to quit making moronic excuses and accept the command at once. Realizing there was no getting out of this, Tatsuya finally agreed to take the spot. However, when he asked who would be his teammates, Kasuto told him to choose his own team, since the contest was starting in a few hours. Excited for the outcome, Tatsuya decided to choose Leo and Mikihiko as his teammates, hoping they would kick ass together. At the hotel that night, Tatsuya told Leo and Mikihiko that he would adjust their CADs before the contest and create the perfect strategy to kick ass. By the next day, Tatsuya and his friends were prepared for the contest. And as it started, Tatsuya flashed before the enemy and fired a spell that weakened him, allowing him to run ahead. When the dude tried to blast him, he destroyed his spell instantly, and Shinkuru realized that the skill was Gram Demolition. Mary remembered that the same spell had stopped the van from smacking into their bus on the highway, and wondered if Tatsuya had saved them after all. On the other hand, Tatsuya successfully opened the enemy's monolith, but hurried out of sight immediately. At the same time, an enemy arrived at Leo's monolith. As he tried to shoot it, Leo swung his blade at him, knocking him aside, and nailed him into the ground. Inside the forest, Mikihiko cast a sound waves on another dude, making him to lose his way. And as Tatsuya ran through the trees, he activated a spell, and jumped onto a tree before flying onto another. When the last dude arrived at the spot, Tatsuya fired a Resonanus spell to weaken him, winning the contest for his team, and Masaki thought his skill was impressive. As the next contest began, Mikihiko activated an infiltration spell, and managed to discover the opponent's monolith, so Tatsuya hurried away, and fired at the monolith below, before narrowly escaping the enemy's attacks. As Leo came across an opponent, he managed to shield his monolith with a spell, and knock the dude with his blade. And as the alarm went off, Tatsuya realized they had won another round. As another contest began, large rocks launched at Masaki, but he caught them in his spell, and destroyed them instantly. Desperate to keep him away, the other team began launching rocks, but his interference armor dispelled them all. As they realized they were hopeless, an opponent tried hurrying to his monolith, but Masaki blasted him with a spell. One of them tried summoning large rocks, but Masaki caused them to explode at that instant. However, the dude wouldn't quit and activated a new spell, combining them into a barrage of attacks to seal him up forever. But he pulverized everything and blew them up. With the contest over, Tatsuya realized that Masaki and Shinkuru were inviting them to a face-to-face challenge in the finals, and realized it was their best chance of winning. Mikihiko wondered if they really stood a chance with them, but Tatsuya told him that they were better off worrying about their next opponents. As the contest began in the mountains, Tatsuya pulled an enemy into the water and ran into their territory. From a tree, he fired at their monolith, and Mikihiko entered the code into his CAD, winning the contest immediately. That evening, Tatsuya met the spy counselor and asked her to uncover the hideout of the No-Head Dragon gang which tried to attack their hotel the other night. However, she was shocked by his discovery and wondered how he found out the secret name. He told her that it was none of her f***ing business and said that he intends to annihilate them before they attacked his team again. So as she continued staring at him like a hopeless, useless lover, he told her to get her ugly ass face from his sight. At the same time, Masaki and Shinkuru were pleased after discovering that the final would be in an open field. Masaki wondered if Tatsuya would fight them face to face like they hoped, so Shinkuru told him that he had no other choice. Inside the tent, Tatsuya gave Mikihiko and Leo magic robes, saying that they possess protective circles and would help them in casting magic. He said that it would protect them from Shinkuru's invisible bullets and said that they were perfectly legal. The next day, while preparing for the contest, Tatsuya began to wonder if his team could really pull off a win, and if he stood a chance facing off with Masaki and Shinkuru at the same time. Just then, Miyuki appeared before him and told him that she believes he would never lose to anyone. As she hurried off, Tatsuya knew that he couldn't afford to disappoint her. In the stands, Mizuki began noticing several spirits swarming around Mikihiko and thought his powers were starting to restore. With everyone looking on from the stands, an alarm signaled the start of the contest, and at once Masaki fired a spell, but Tatsuya destroyed it instantly. As he began firing more spells and walking closer, Tatsuya destroyed them all without hesitating. However, his shots repelled on Masaki's interference armor, but they continued walking closer to each other, firing relentlessly like they had limitless ammo. Deciding to go on with their plans anyway, he told the backup to secure the monolith and took off. As Tatsuya saw him run across the field, he started running towards Masaki. With his attacks unrelenting, Tatsuya managed to blast them all, narrowly dodging invisible bullets, and spotted a hole in the ground. Realizing it was a close call, he decided to activate his mystical eye, and as he began sensing Masaki's spells around him, he shot them without holding back. At the same time, Shinkuru was hurrying to Tatsuya's monolith, but Leo appeared before him. As Shinkuru tried casting a spell, he drew his robe and planted it before him as a shield, immediately swinging his blade, but he evaded it. Realizing his invisible bullet wouldn't penetrate the shield, Shinkuru flew through his spell to protect himself from a blast. And as he tried casting a new spell, Mikihiko multiplied before his eyes using Genjutsu. When Leo tried finishing him off, a blast exploded in his face, and Shinkuru realized that Masaki had attacked him with an invisible bullet. To use this advantage, he immediately cast a spell and glued Mikihiko to the ground. Just then, Tatsuya began charging towards him, but as Masaki cast several spells around him, he realized that he had increased his attack beyond the competition's rules and thought Tatsuya would not survive it. With a spin, Tatsuya began shooting them one after another, and as he reloaded his weapon midair, he continued firing and rolling over the field, but invisible bullets blasted the ground around him, leaving the students in shock. As Tatsuya stumbled down the ground, Masaki knew he would surely be disqualified. At that moment, his system reported that Tatsuya had suffered fractured ribs and even ruptured his liver, while his combat ability dropped below the usual level. As the system announced that self-restoration was starting, it prepared his data for backup. At that instant, he landed beside Masaki, and with the dude still in shock, he snapped his fingers, creating a powerful noise that echoed across the arena. As the noise vanished, Masaki passed out instantly, having ruptured both his eardrums. However, Tatsuya was also wounded and decided to rest until he was recovered. In the open field, Shinkuru was shocked to discover that Masaki had been defeated, and as his backup warned him of a nearby attack, he managed to evade a lightning strike. With Mikihiko pleased to see Masaki taken out, he decided to endure his own pain, determined to defeat Shinkuru. At once, he unleashed his clones with Genjutsu and activated a powerful spell, causing large rocks to emerge from the ground. Shinkuru tried to escape, but a weed caught his foot, and as he managed to free himself, lightning struck him from the top, sending him crashing to the ground. Mikihiko thought they had won, but Shinkuru appeared before his eyes and unleashed a powerful blast that was sure to annihilate him. Luckily, a shield protected him from the attack, and Leo swung his blade, knocking Shinkuru straight to the ground, and finally winning the contest. Inside the tent, the committee were excited about their victory, and Mayumi was impressed with Tatsuya's exceptional skills. At the arena, all the students began cheering for the boys, but Miyuki was happier than everyone. Meanwhile, at another meeting, the mysterious men realized their team's chance of winning was close to zero, and thought their asses would be in trouble for giving fake predictions to their gamblers. Desperate to turn it in their favor, one of them suggested that they eliminate Tatsuya and his friends from the rest of the competitions. He said that it was the only way to snatch the win, and the others thought it was a great plan. At the camp before her contest, Miyuki began to wonder if they would be attacked again, but Tatsuya told her that he would always protect her. That morning, when a contest began, the girls activated their spells and flew high to slash a light. At the game, Miyuki's teammate tried activating her core, but it failed, and Mizuki realized that something was definitely wrong. Just then, the girl began falling towards the water, but an official saved her from her doom, and Tatsuya wondered what could have gone wrong. At that moment, his phone rang, and Mizuki told him that she saw a spirit burst out of the girl's CAD. Hearing her words, Tatsuya realized they were being targeted again, and offered to take Miyuki's CAD to the device check before her contest. Before long, he arrived inside the tent, and the official started scanning the device. Just as he tried installing a virus inside, Tatsuya dragged him over the counter and demanded to know his intentions. When the dude refused to answer, Tatsuya tried ending him, but the eyeless old man entered the tent. As he demanded to know what happened, Tatsuya told him that the crook had tried frying Miyuki's device, and the man realized that the device had an electron silkworm, a powerful virus that causes a device to malfunction. And as the crook was led away, he told Tatsuya that Miyuki was allowed to use a spare CAD, since her original one had been corrupted. He said that he wishes to see him again, but Tatsuya told him that he has no time for old empty-eyed creeps. As he returned to his team's tent, Miyuki began apologizing, saying that she was sorry for stirring up his emotions since he wasn't meant to feel any anger. However, Tatsuya thought her apology was irrelevant, and told her that his anger was only meant to protect her. That evening in the arena, Miyuki realized that she has a slight lead on the board, so she asked Tatsuya if she could use the flying cat. As the new round began, the girls flew towards the light, and after a moment, Miyuki activated a new spell and flew past them. Realizing she was flying, everyone wondered how she acquired the skill, but she began slashing the lights and flew even higher. By the time the round was over, she had led by a huge gap on the scoreboard, and Tatsuya was pleased with her success. In the no-head dragon base, the gang realized their new plan was a total failure, and thought the best option was to ruin the entire competition, so they activated Captain America. As he arrived at the arena, he tried attacking a dude, but he caught him and hurled him outside the structure. However, he managed to activate a spell and rolled over the ground. As the dude landed, he asked who he was, but soon figured out that he was probably a robot. Just then, another dude appeared, wondering if Captain America would rather be called Mr. Robot. Looking to utilize their distraction, Captain America tried punching the dude, but he pushed him back with a spell, and told the other dude to restrain him. Immediately, electric needles nailed him into the ground, and they realized that their fellow agent, Fuji, had done the job. At the arena that night, Miyuki activated her magic as the contest began, and started slashing the lights. Before long, she realized that the other girls had also acquired the flying magic, and they began slashing the lights together. After a moment, the girls started running out of magic, so the spell lowered them towards the ground, but Miyuki continued slashing her way to victory. That night at the hotel, as the girls celebrated their recent success, Erika wondered if they would win the second monolith code. In the parking lot, the counselor transferred all the data on the no-head dragon to Tatsuya, and as he left her, he told her that he was going fishing for bodies. However, when she drove away, he entered the agent Fuji's car and told her that he found the gang and intends to isekai them for Christmas. That night, the eyeless man visited the major's office and began saying that he wishes to include Tatsuya in his clan, since he was an outcast to his own clan. He said that he trained Tatsuya's mother and aunt when they were little, and hoped to do the same with him. He said that with Tatsuya on their side, the Yotsuba family would become too powerful, and could even reign over the 10 master clans. Meanwhile, Tatsuya finally arrived in the city, and began heading closer to his destination. Inside the hideout, the mysterious men were wondering how they could get rid of Tatsuya, seeing as he was becoming a bone in their throat. At the same time, Tatsuya had arrived on a rooftop, ready to isekai them all, and as he fired his weapon, one dude passed out instantly, and the men wondered what was happening. Just then, a generator vanished, and they grew afraid, wondering who was next. At that moment, the phone began to ring, and Tatsuya told them that he came for payback. At that instant, their magic disappeared, and another generator vanished. Afraid for himself, one ugly dude flipped the table for hiding, and a generator revealed that the attacks were coming through the window. Deciding to take a shot, one man aimed for the faraway structure and saw Tatsuya smiling in the lens. Before he knew it, a bullet nicked his eye. One dude commanded the generators to attack Tatsuya, but they said that it was impossible as they couldn't possibly reach him. Immediately, 2 more generators vanished, and through the call device, Tatsuya told them that he came to grant them quick funerals without the need to book for space. Desperate to live, another man tried calling for help, but Tatsuya told him that he has cut off their service and caused him to vanish instantly. The one-eyed man tried running away but also vanished before reaching the door. With only one left, the man began saying that he would quit and become a follower of Christ, but Tatsuya told him that it was every sinner's favorite line, so he promised to abandon the competition and said that the gang would withdraw from Japan. However, Tatsuya was not convinced and said that only his boss could make the decision. Desperate to survive, the man told him that he was the boss Pihei and could make him accept whatever he wants. As Tatsuya asked for the name of this boss, he eliminated another generator to prove his threat. With no other way out, the man confessed that his boss was Richard's son and was a famous man in the society. However, Tatsuya decided to be a bad protagonist today and eliminated another dude instantly. Angered by this, the man wondered why Tatsuya was eliminating them, saying that they had not killed any students. Even so, Tatsuya was determined to stay bad and told him that they dragged him into their business when they came after his sister. He told him that their attempt had drawn out the emotion inside him and had brought him on this journey of revenge. As he let out those words, he silenced him forever. And the next day, Kasuto and his team began destroying their opponents in another round of the monolith code, electrocuting and knocking their enemies aside. At that moment, an alarm went off, and they realized that Kasuto and his team had won their contest. Shortly in the arena, Tatsuya and Miyuki watched Kasuto in another round of monolith code, blocking attacks with his phalanx, an indestructible shield, and knocking the enemies aside like a rag doll, securing the win for his team. With the contest finally over, Miyuki and her teammates were awarded medals, and Kasuto was delighted to have won first place. That night at the hotel, as the team celebrated their victory, Tatsuya spotted Masaki with Miyuki, and realized that some love story may be close to developing. As he appeared before him, the dude realized that he was her brother, and thought all his pickup lines were totally f***ed. However, Tatsuya decided to honor the bro code, and asked Miyuki to dance with him, so they headed off to the dance floor. After a moment, Kasuto appeared before him, and asked for a private meeting. Outside the hotel, Kasuto told Tatsuya to join the 10 master clans, realizing it was the only way to save him from the clan's leader's intentions. With Tatsuya unwilling to switch clans, Kasuto wondered if marrying Mayumi would be enough to change his mind. But Tatsuya told him that he was no simp and said that he was too young to become a baby daddy. Realizing his mind was made up, Kasuto told him that defeating the next leader of their clan could not be overlooked, as the leaders were determined to have him on their side and even make him their next leader. A few weeks later at school, Miyuki wondered why Tatsuya was in the library, and thought he was watching some adult-only videos, but he told her that he was searching for the Philosopher's Stone. He told her that the Philosopher's Stone had the ability to transform materials into magic ingredients, and due to this, was believed could store magic sequences. As he wondered why she had come, she told him that the new council president was asking to see him, so he agreed to leave. Inside a private office, the teacher told Tatsuya that they have been invited to a thesis competition, and wondered if he was willing to represent the school. He told him that the final member of the team has come. Having said these words, he decided to leave. After returning home that evening, Tatsuya and Miyuki met a creepy ugly lady inside who was his associate. After Miyuki offered to make dinner, Tatsuya demanded to know why her ugly ass was on his couch. The lady, Sayuri, told him that she wants his support at the headquarters, and asked him to drop out of high school. But Tatsuya told her that he can't abandon his sister. She tried telling him that another guardian would look after her, but he told her that no one could ever be good enough for his sister, and that he didn't mind continuing as the good Terminator for the rest of his life. Realizing his mind was made up, she decided to reveal a relic that was similar to the Philosopher's Stone, telling him that it has the ability to store magic sequences, and wondered if he could duplicate it. This was basically the answer to Tatsuya's prayers, so he immediately agreed to analyze it. As soon as she left, he told Miyuki that he was going hunting for bad guys, and before long, took off on his motorcycle. Before his eyes, 2 vehicles crashed in an accident, and a pair of bad guys tried eliminating the man inside. Just then, Tatsuya began running at them. As one cast a jamming signal, Tatsuya dismantled his weapon instantly. Shocked by the sight, they wondered who he was, but he isekai'd them with quick shots. As he tried checking the victim, a sniper blasted him, but he healed instantly. Before his eyes, the bodies rose into the vehicle, and it sped away. Using his inner senses, he retraced the direction of the bullet, and realized that the sniper was on a faraway rooftop. At once, he appeared before him and fired a blast that caused the sniper to vanish. After returning home, Tetsuya revealed the relic to Miyuki, telling her that he has been hired to replicate it, even though he thought it may be impossible. He said that he was willing to make the attempt. After all, his success could birth the creation of magic robots that could fight their wars and even clean their toilets. Watch this next video. Till next time, my fellow legendary plot masters.